Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today and attending our virtual Prep for Pathways. Today, Mike Adicott, GM of Asset College, will be presenting on exploring the importance of upskilling and reskilling in COVID times and examining employment hotspots during COVID and post-COVID times. Thank you, Mike. I'll let you take it away.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As said, Mike Adicott here, General Manager at Asset College. Thanks for jumping in. As we mentioned before, I'm happy to take questions at the end of the session. Feel free to type them as you go, but we'll also open up some microphones and have a bit of a yarn at the end of all of this. So the session, as I said before, is very much around some of the changing focuses that face us over the next probably 24 to 36 months. Not hoping that COVID will last that long, but the transition and the impacts of it are going to change and accelerate some of the changes of work practices that were probably coming our way anyway. It's just that right now we're having to kind of speed up and rethink some of our skill sets and how we adapt and adopt those to give us a healthy future. And in my opinion, at least, I think there's still very much a healthy future. I think literally what COVID has done is it's kind of just identified weaknesses, opportunities, strengths, all in one hit. Probably at a faster pace than some would have liked, but it just means that right now we're in a position whereby we're having to kind of embrace what would have been coming our way sometime soon anyway. The key thing about this is that whilst we don't know what the next stages will be, we certainly know that there are some certain trends that will make up skill sets, and also it's a time when a lot of people need to, I guess, rethink their strategies, rethink some of their options, and maybe assess their personal kind of skill sets. Before COVID, many workers had not lacked or potentially hadn't developed a lot of key skills in preparation for it. And I guess a great example of that is that we spend so much of our time now working in distance environments, working or sharing information on Zoom or Teams or all sorts of other platforms, and having to kind of rejig the way we traditionally communicated and interacted with other individuals and organizations. So there's been, I guess, key 4 steps, which we're having to accelerate the move to platform. That means really, adopt technologies that allow us to have a flexible learning environment, a flexible work environment, and obviously a flexible new normal home environment. That means that we're having to transition to a lot more digital and virtual work. And it means that we have to assess existing skill sets and, of course, adopt, adapt, and plan for the future. So the key thing is, what does that mean? Moving forward, what is the job market? Where will the future jobs lie? And what sort of skills is industry already starting to ask for? Government starting to desire, and individuals having to, I guess, reassess. We all have lots and lots of great skills, some of which are non-realized, some of which are strong, some which need work, but we need to kind of rethink those in terms of what do you want to do in the future, where is the market, and are you following the right pathway? Moving forward, this is really these are the key in-demand skills post-COVID-19. Critical thinking, I'll expand on all these a little bit later. Emotional intelligence, creativity, growth mindset, digital communications, flexibility, and adaptability. And these have always been the skill sets that are associated with great entrepreneurs, with successful business individuals. But now they become skill sets that we need to start thinking about at a more personal level. Critical thinking is the tools that to have the ability to understand a situation and reassess in real time. Obviously, the emotional intelligence to interact with others and to engage in a time when things can change quite rapidly. Creativity and innovation. Well, Australia obviously is focusing on creativity and innovation as some of the key pillars of moving forward in a post-COVID stroke 21st century world. And I use those two terms together because really that was always the focus anyway. Creativity and innovation, when combined with a can-do kind of mindset and the tools and skills to be able to test and challenge existing ideas and existing practices, is a very, very strong area in which we're going to see a lot more employment. Digital communications, obviously we've got to adapt and adopt to using a lot more digital tools. We are going to be working in an increasingly um, flexible but an increasingly global environment. So whether that be on an individual state basis, an individual Australian basis, or globally or regionally, the ways in which we communicate are obviously changing rapidly. We used in days gone by, we'd have executives sitting in business class and first class, flying constantly 300 days of the year around the globe. Well, that's not happening. And guess what? It probably never needed to happen. It's with adapting new forms of digital communication and other communication strategies, people can be very successful in managing teams, in developing ideas, and working alongside other organizations. And of course, flexibility and adaptability. If you don't have these things, then all of the above go out the window. If you're not open to making some changes along the way. I always liken this to starting off for work in the morning, maybe putting on your Apple CarPlay maps, and Apple CarPlay. You know where you want to go. You've got to absolutely You've been down this route so many times. You're going to drive it whilst listening to your favorite radio station, paying little or no attention to where you're going because it's where you've always gone. It's a habit. Apple CarPlay or Google Maps then suddenly alerts you of potential traffic issues ahead and maybe alternate routes to take. And then you need to decide whether you want to stick with what you were going to do and ignore that, or adapt to it to see whether you can save those valuable minutes, time, or whatever else. And really, that's exactly the same as what we need to do in the workplace. We need to be able to assess things in a rapid way. We need to assess whether or not the way we've always done things is the way we're going to continue to do things, or whether we pay attention to warnings and other indicators that maybe there are alternate ways to do things. When you weigh up in-demand jobs in Australia post-COVID-19, we're already starting to see some major trends where we're going to see large growth. This is not definitive, it's not supposed to be, but four key areas are really coming to mind in terms of Australia's future drivers for a strong economy post-COVID-19. That is, security. Security has always been a big part. It's obviously, if you've been reading the news lately or watching the news or paying attention, obviously you'll see that there are some major areas that there's a lot of government money and activity going into. For instance, cyber security. We're undergoing constant attacks, both at a personal, government, and organizational level consistently. We've got to train people up to be more aware of these, not necessarily to be cyber scientists, but also to be cyber aware. That affects obviously government, and government will continue to grow in the area of security. Risk analysis is a major part. Anyone who's been in that risk environment, now's the time to build those skills. Because risk analysis roles, whether it be in a small business, corporate business, or a government department, are going to continuously be um, key elements of the next few years and potentially the long-term future. And obviously security operations, how do we then implement those things at a granular level? Health, well, health just has always been a major driver and will always be an area where we need lots of people and expertise, whether it be aged care, as we've seen sadly over the last 3 to 6 months, childcare, nurses, social work, NDIS, doctors, nurses, all of these roles are and continue to be in high demand and will always be an active skill area. Outside of that, education will continue to grow, and this is actually an area which is having to adopt and adapt pretty fast. I mean, I'm not sure, some of you may have year 11 or 12 kids, and how they've had to adapt just in the last 3 to 6 months, not only to the way they're being assessed, but also the way they've been educated and the way they interact with friends and colleagues and the like. K-12, tertiary, and particularly vocational study is going to be a major focus. The government is committing a lot of energy into vocational study because it's seeing what we've known for a long time, that a university degree is not necessarily going to make a strong person unless it's been undertaken for the right person, or for the right reason rather. Whereas vocational study, which is being shown how to do something and building the skills, will always be in demand. As people point out to me all the time, if you're an electrician, a carpenter, or any of those kind of key trades, you've got a skill that, regardless of the times ahead, is always going to be in demand, and that's a vocational skill. It's something you've learned. And outside of that, the area of science, science, all areas of science, whether it be in software applications, programmers, agricultural science, water-based sciences, all these areas are going to require a lot more creative and technical skills over the next decade, not just as a result of COVID-19, but as a result of changes to the economy, changes to the demographics of society. There's a whole bunch of new challenges coming our way that have been creeping up on us for years, and suddenly we're starting to, I guess, sit up and have to pay attention in a way that many wouldn't have imagined maybe 6 months ago. So now is the time to take a stock take, and it's one thing we don't do as individuals is or rarely do as individuals, is actually stock take our own skills, life, even finances. An exercise which somebody showed me a few years ago was basically creating a profit and loss sheet of your strengths and weaknesses in terms of everyday life. There are certain things we're very good at, certain things we're not so good at, certain things we have to do, whether we like them or not. And there are certain things in life we can avoid, the procrastination side. I would say kind of like, I've got a big sheet up on my wall, which is called a cheat sheet. And it says, it's 4 quadrants. It's about one of those quadrants is do it now. These are things: emergency, complaints, crisis, problem solution. Then to the left of that is not urgent but important: planning, preparation, investigation, networking, plan to do it. Urgent but not important tasks, trivial requests, pointless routines, repeating something that we know doesn't work, and allowing ad hoc interruptions. I don't mean just in the moment ad hoc interruptions, but I mean things that just take away from valuable time that we have, that we could be using to maybe learn something new, maybe to apply something new, maybe to do the thing which we've been thinking about for a long time and never got around to it. Then, of course, in the last quadrant, not important, not urgent, resist and cease is kind of, procrastination, chat, doodling, gossip, surfing the net, watching Netflix for, 20 hours a day, whatever those things are. It's a great place to start. Now, there are lots of resources, and I am going to share with Michelle after this session some valuable links that are worth following, and she'll share that out to all participants today. Just regards some of the tools that are out there that you can look at. Now, this is the one up on screen at the moment. Is a tool that hardly anyone knows about in Australia, and I'll get some feedback on this as I go. But if you've been to Job Outlook, just type yes in your chat box, because I suspect the majority of you haven't. We got 2 yeses, so so that's not 3. So Job Outlook is actually it's a really good place to start looking to see what you want to do. It's got a number of features. It's actually the Australian government. It's Australian government's best kept secret, in my opinion. Very few people know this. I reckon every school kid should be looking at this, but every also adult who's looking at transitioning, anyone who's looking at maybe, doing their next step in whatever they want to do, because this profiles every job or a major career that the ATO knows about. So you can actually type in, soldier, sailor, tinker, tailor, pretty much whatever you're looking to do, and it will give you categories in those roles, and then it will show you basically what the pathways are, what the average wages are, expected unemployment trends, employment trends, any study that you may require, profiles of the types of the levels of employment. Gives you a lot of valuable background. The skills match little result and the career quiz are quite useful. There are more of those, and I'll share some of those later. And future outlook. So future outlook is how different industries and sectors are faring. Now, this may not be up to date in the total moment of COVID, but really a lot of the underlying trends are exactly the same. This is updated on a regular basis. And so I encourage you to start looking at these tools, exploring, investigating, and researching just to see what sectors there are. I've seen lots of people that, and I'm guilty of it in the past, taking that route without paying attention to my Apple CarPlay and, finding out you reach a dead end. And it's very easy to do because we're creatures of habit. And we go about doing the same thing, not necessarily always understanding, our own individual strengths and weaknesses, or whether or not those strengths and weaknesses are applicable to what we actually want to do. So stock take really is, list all your professional experiences, list all your personal experiences, get a feel for all of those. In relation to those experiences, what skills have you acquired? That's expertise, it's social skills, it's technical skills, it's a whole range of different things. And then you need to then sit down and review those. So skills depending on, and be honest with yourself, the level of proficiency. Now I could say, I'm pretty good at using Microsoft Excel until I see my better half using Microsoft Excel. Now I can produce some pretty charts and put some numbers in there and whatever else. And for me, that thinks I'd say, high level of proficiency, until suddenly I see someone doing scientific formulas and lookup tables and all sorts of other stuff. And then I kind of realize that maybe I need to downgrade my level of proficiency and learn a few things. And that's obviously how you prioritize them once you've identified what your career goals are. And then lastly, areas you can improve. How can you improve your current skills or proficiency in each skill? What skills are you lacking? And which ones are required for a potential future career that you may have identified. So skills, obviously are different from qualities. Skills are very specific things that you have an ability to do. Qualities are more about the way in which you go about things. So, When you're looking at these, identify your skills and strengths, but also spend time to look at your shortcomings. Now, I could say that I am the best in the world at doing something, but then one of my qualities is that I procrastinate a lot and I hardly ever do it. So one can cancel out the other, and that obviously then diminishes your skill effectively. So moving forward, once you've done that skill, stock take, once you've done a bit of a study, investigated the careers and options out there, looked at maybe what are the roles that are coming up that may be valuable to you, may be worth pursuing, then it's time to work out how to get there. And what do you do? And basically, there's three routes to everything. It's one, RPL, recognition of prior learning. That's maybe getting recognition of the skills you've got to build your resume and to build your sales 101 presentation toolkit on how you present yourself to the market. Secondly, obviously, is study. Um, yeah, really, everyone should be a lifelong study person. And that doesn't mean getting more qualifications. It can be just learning new things every day, spending time to find out about something you didn't know that may be applicable or useful to you in your life at a personal or a professional level. And lastly, but definitely not least, experience. Experience underpins all things above. We can never undervalue experience, and experience actually then loops back around to recognition of prior learning. Because the more knowledge we have, the more things we can get recognized and build yourself as somebody who's more valuable than the next person when trying to pursue a particular career pathway. So for those of you who don't understand, maybe recognition of prior learning. Recognition of prior learning, we do a lot of this with soldier-on candidates transitioning from the defence forces, because there's a lot of skills you learn in defence forces that don't necessarily automatically transfer into civilian qualifications. And that could be the fact you've been doing project management. It could be the fact you've been doing cyber technologies. It could be any number of things, team management, a whole range of different skills that potentially that you can have assessed in order to get a formal qualification. And that means you can maybe get a qualification with either no study or partial study, which speeds things up. Now, partial study is always a good option because very few of us know everything, or some of it, whilst we may know enough to get full recognition of prior learning, sometimes it's also good to refresh your skills, to bring them up to current standards, or maybe to get new perspectives on them. So you can do a mixture of like recognition of prior learning, full study. It's a lot faster. It's more cost effective, and it's a great way to pursue a specific skill set that you would need for your resume or for particular jobs. And it's something which I do quite often. Is I just get and I do this just for the hell of it. Is I jump on Seek or I jump on LinkedIn, and I look to see what people are looking for in certain types of roles. Whether it be qualification based or experience based. And it's not because I'm looking for another role. It's just good to understand what each sector's ever changing requirements are. Study options. Now we have a lot of study options, obviously, but there are many, many more across Australia than just what Asset bring to the market. We concentrate on a number of things. We are actually easily the largest training provider for security and security operations and risk analysis, security management, cyber security, government security, investigations, and a whole range of other areas that are quite often great transition pathways. Security risk analysis, for instance, is certainly a growing skill set that is being recognized within businesses. But also some of those more core skills like business administration, customer engagement, leadership or leadership skills, quality auditing. So auditing sounds like a really boring thing to do. Quality auditing applies to every industry. It's the ability to analyze and review existing practices. Workplace health and safety continues to be a major factor in all of those sectors we spoke about earlier on in terms of future growth. So there are lots and lots of different options, but really before you get to this stage, understand your skill set. Don't start at the end point. Do that self-analysis, analyze the careers and the sectors you're looking to get into. Make sure that there's traction in those careers. It's a colleague of mine was a business development manager for many years in the oil and exploration industry, and probably very good at it. He knows his stuff. He knows his trade. He knows the tech. And at that stage, he was being paid a lot of money. Those days have gone. We've moved past that boom, and obviously we're moving more into a intelligence-based society, more so than a resources-based society. As much as he keeps trying to do the same thing over and over and over again, he's not getting the results. So there comes a point where obviously you've got to decide to take the skills you've got and repurpose them for other roles. But first of all, research where you can apply them. Apprenticeships and traineeships. Now, these can never be undervalued, and I encourage every parent out there to pursue these on behalf of their youngsters. Sadly, we've moved in Australia to a world where we seem to value a degree regardless of whatever it is. Whilst kids are at school, so just go to uni. Go and do a arts degree or a degree in this, that, or whatever. These days we can get degrees in anything, as opposed to the old days where it was about law, science, medicine. It was about the other ones you required. There are a lot of companies across Australia. MEGT is one we work with a lot. There's Busy at Work is another. These guys, their only business is about assisting individuals to get into apprenticeships or traineeships. And I'd encourage you to look at these pathways because they are great pathways. They're available to people of all ages as well. The old perception of apprenticeships and traineeships are all about school leavers is not true. There's a lot of government funding around it. For instance, even during COVID, the federal government is paying 50% of the wages of apprenticeships to keep them training. So it's apprenticeships and traineeships fall into that experience area, and vocational experience is the best type of experience you can have. And I guess a lot of you having I don't know the people here today, but having worked in the obviously defence forces, you'll understand that it's not you can read as much as you like in a book, but it's when you put it into action is when it really becomes valuable. So that gives a bit of an overview today, and we've obviously it's a lunchtime session, so I've moved through it very fast, and hopefully I've given you a few things to think about, and we will share this presentation a bit later on. Right now I'd like to just kind of open up to any thoughts, observations, or questions. And feel free to either type them up on the side or even take yourself off mute and ask away. Well, I've sent everyone to sleep.
Would anyone like to discuss their personal experiences with upskilling and finding new opportunities?
So there's a question from Sarah. How long does RPL take generally? So RPL is based on evidence, and so RPL can be an exceptionally fast exercise, or it can be a pretty painful exercise. An example, we work with a company called ISS, which are a major facilities management company. One of their people was in there and needed to go overseas. And at the time, he'd been to university, been deferred, and he needed a diploma in order to enter the country he was planning to transfer to. Yeah, his RPL process was easy as and was done in a matter of a week or so to get him a full diploma because he had all his eggs in the basket. He was able to provide evidence, letters from employers, or position descriptions or other elements in order to be obtained that really fast. Some people, it's not so easy, and that's why you might end up doing, yeah, some gap training in order to make up the gaps. So, but it is all certainly a lot faster. So to do a diploma normally would take a year. Yeah, it's even worst case scenario. RPL with a bit of extra study might take a couple of months. Um, Yeah, Carrie said absolutely. She agrees that obviously vocational training is as important as a university degree. I agree. Um, in fact, yeah, I'm a believer that vocational study degrees have their place absolutely. Yeah, but if you're not exposed to the real world as a result of it, then really you're just coming out as a theorist. How much recognition do ex-service people receive to assist with moving from defence trade into an equivalent civilian trade? Now, that's obviously as much a question for Michelle, so I might just pass that across to her, but we support her every step of the way. Did you want to respond to that one, Michelle?
Yes, indeed. I'll have a quick look at that question from Deirdre. It depends on what trade they've done, Deirdre, and it depends obviously what level of experience they've had. Often, for example, in the electrical trade, it can be they have to. There's probably gaps that they have to fill, if I can put it that way, between what is they're compliant with in terms of defence in that particular trade, and what is required in a civilian context for that particular trade. So it's a bit of a Pandora's box, that question, but I think that's probably the easiest way I can try and give you an example. Does that help?
So, yeah, Deirdre, it's yeah, just in adding to that, yeah, it really does depend on the skill sets that you're trying to develop and the qualification that you're trying to move to. Um, it's a lot easier to get something like a RPL pathway through to areas such as leadership and management, and maybe even project management, than it is maybe through to some of the technical trades. Yeah, like moving into, as you mentioned before, like electrical services. So thinking about aircraft specific trades, metal beaters, those sorts of areas. Yeah, they are harder because quite often that's going to still require maybe transferring across into some type of apprenticeship. Um, because although you can transfer at different levels, and that's why I'd encourage you if you've got some of those kind of key skills to talk to people like MEGT, and I will share some contacts there because they're the people that will help you take the more technical vocational skills across into civilian life. Any other questions out there today? Well, in that case, what I'll do is I'll wind this up. When that information gets sent out to you, my details will be included. Yeah, if you have any personal questions you'd like to ask, yeah, regardless of whether it's in relating to stuff we do at Asset or beyond, I've worked across. Hey, yeah, I'm a person with a very diverse background. Yeah, I started off as a avionics engineer in the aerospace industry. Yeah, and went through into technology, moved then into training. Yeah, you never know where the pathway is going to take you. It does require that you reskill along the way, but also, most of those bridges always came as a result. So when I was working with Airbus, yeah, I mean, I learned IT skills that were very valuable in other areas when I discovered that I was unable to get, equivalent roles in Australia, for instance, in aviation or aviation production engineering. And so you adapt, you adopt, and you pick up on the key skills you got, and you adopt it to different industries. So thanks again. I'll sign off. I'll let Michelle have the last word. We'll share some information with you today. Thanks for taking the time today, and I wish everyone the best of success.
On behalf of Soldier On and today's attendees, I'd like to thank Mike for his insightful and timely presentation. I'm sure we've all benefited from today's Prep for Pathways and Mike's expertise. So once again, thank you very much.